The species they underestimated. The Galactic Survey. The archivists had been cataloging species for 12 million years. Their job was simple: observe developing civilizations, record their progress, and determine when they were ready for contact with the greater galactic community. It was a process refined over eons, a system that had never failed. Until Earth. Senior archivist Kelthor had been monitoring humanity for 3,000 of their years. By galactic standards, they were unremarkable. Carbon-based, biologically fragile, limited sensory range, average intelligence. Their world was pleasant but not exceptional. Their resources were adequate but not abundant. Every metric said they should develop slowly, following the standard pattern: stone tools, agriculture, writing, metallurgy, industrial revolution, space exploration, and finally, after 10 to 15,000 years, they might achieve faster-than-light travel. Humanity was not following the pattern. Kelthor reviewed the data again, certain there must be an error. 3,000 years ago, humans were building pyramids and inventing writing. 1,000 years ago, they were fighting with swords and sailing wooden ships. 200 years ago, they discovered electricity. Now, they had colonies on 3 planets and were building their first prototype faster-than-light engine. This acceleration is impossible, Kelthor said to his colleague, archivist Shavera. Species don't advance this rapidly. Their biology hasn't changed. Their neural capacity is the same. Yet their technological progress has increased exponentially. Shavera examined the timeline, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of concern. Perhaps we miscalculated their starting point? I checked. Multiple times. 3,000 years ago, they were barely beginning civilization. Now they're on the verge of interstellar travel. At this rate, they'll achieve what took us 4 million years in less than 5,000. That's not concerning, Shavera said quietly. That's terrifying. The classification debate. The discovery triggered an emergency session of the Galactic Directorate, the governing body that oversaw all first contact protocols. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Chamber, a space station older than most stars in the local cluster. Kelthor presented his findings to an audience that grew more disturbed with each piece of data. Humans demonstrate unprecedented adaptability, he explained. They inhabit every climate zone on their planet, from frozen polar regions to scorching deserts. They've survived ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, and asteroid impacts. When faced with obstacles, they don't adapt biologically, they adapt technologically. Director Vokthar, a being whose species had achieved spaceflight 8 million years ago, interrupted. All species adapt. What makes humans unique? Kelthor displayed a holographic timeline. The speed. They went from first powered flight to landing on their moon in 66 years. From understanding atomic structure to splitting atoms in 40 years. From inventing computers to creating artificial intelligence in 70 years. Each breakthrough accelerates the next. This is dangerous, said Counselor Thresh, a military strategist whose species had maintained galactic peace for millions of years. A species that advances this rapidly is unstable. They'll develop weapons before wisdom, power before responsibility. Or, Shavera countered, they'll bring innovation the galaxy hasn't seen in millions of years. When was our last major breakthrough? We've been optimizing existing technology for eons. We've forgotten how to truly innovate. The debate raged for 3 days. Finally, Director Vokthar called for a vote: should humanity be contacted now, or should they be quarantined until they proved themselves stable? The vote was 41-6 in favor of quarantine. Humanity will be contained, Vokthar declared. We will establish a perimeter around their system. No human ship will leave. No galactic vessel will enter. In 1,000 years, we will reassess. Kelthor wanted to object, but protocol was clear. The decision had been made. The invisible wall. Humanity didn't know they'd been judged. They didn't know that invisible monitoring stations surrounded their solar system. They simply continued doing what they'd always done, pushing forward. Captain Sarah Chen was humanity's best pilot, chosen to test the new FTL prototype called the Pioneer. The mission was simple: activate the drive, jump to the nearest star system, and return. Proof that humanity could reach the stars. The ship launched from Mars orbit on a Tuesday morning. Sarah ran through her checklist with practiced calm, ignoring the millions watching the live feed back on Earth. She'd trained for this moment her entire life. FTL drive charging, she reported. All systems nominal. Initiating jump sequence in 10 seconds. She counted down, her hand steady on the activation switch. At 0, she engaged the drive. The universe folded around her. Space bent in ways physics said it shouldn't. For 3 seconds, Pioneer existed in the space between normal reality and faster-than-light travel. Then it hit the barrier. Sarah didn't understand what happened. One moment, she was jumping toward Alpha Centauri. The next, her ship was spinning, alarms screaming, systems failing. The FTL drive had encountered something it wasn't designed for, a field that made faster-than-light travel impossible. She managed to abort the jump, dropping back into normal space just outside Mars orbit. Pioneer limped home, damaged but intact. The investigation took months. Every system was examined. The FTL theory was sound. The drive functioned perfectly. But something out there had stopped them. Sarah stood before the United Earth Space Committee, her report clear and undeniable. There's a barrier around our solar system. Artificial. Deliberate. Someone built a cage, and we're inside it. The room fell silent. Then chaos erupted. Who built it? Someone demanded. Why? Another asked. Sarah's answer was simple and chilling: I don't know. But they didn't ask our permission. The human response. The discovery changed everything. Humanity had believed they were alone in the universe, or at least, that they'd be the ones to decide when contact happened. Now they knew the truth: they'd been watched, judged, and imprisoned. The response was not what the Galactic Director had expected. Humanity didn't panic. They didn't despair. They got angry, and then they got creative. Within weeks, every major nation on Earth had redirected resources toward one goal: understanding the barrier. If someone had built it, it could be studied. If it could be studied, it could be overcome. Scientists worked around the clock. They sent probes to the barrier, collected data, analyzed the field structure. They discovered it was energy-based, maintained by stations positioned throughout the solar system's edge. It's like a fence, Dr. James Kowalski explained to the Space Committee. Very sophisticated, but fundamentally simple. It creates a field that disrupts FTL travel. The stations generate the field. Can we disable it? Asked Admiral Patricia Morrison. Theoretically, yes. But the stations are heavily shielded. Any attempt to destroy one would be detected. Then we don't destroy them, Sarah said, studying the data. We hack them. The room turned to look at her. They've been watching us for how long? Sarah continued. Decades? Centuries? They know our weapons, our ships, our obvious capabilities. But do they know about our hackers? Our social engineers? Our ability to break systems from the inside? A smile spread across Admiral Morrison's face. They locked us in a cage and forgot that humans have been picking locks since we invented locks. Operation Breakthrough. It took 8 months to plan. Humanity built small, stealthy probes designed to look like asteroids. Each contained sophisticated AI and hacking software developed by the best programmers Earth had to offer. The probes drifted toward the barrier stations, using minimal propulsion, taking advantage of natural orbital mechanics. To any observer, they were just space debris. When the first probe reached its target station, it didn't attack. It simply observed, recording the station's communication protocols, power signatures, and system architecture. Then it transmitted the data back to Earth. Human programmers analyzed everything. The technology was advanced, but it followed logical principles. Systems needed maintenance protocols. Stations needed to communicate with each other. And every communication system could be infiltrated. It took 3 more months, but they found it, a maintenance access port in the station's communication system. A backdoor left by whoever had built it, probably for routine updates. On a Thursday morning, exactly 1 year after Sarah's failed jump, humanity activated 30 probes simultaneously. Each targeted a barrier station. Each uploaded the same virus, carefully crafted to mimic legitimate maintenance code. The stations accepted the code. And one by one, they shut down. In the Galactic Directorate, alarms began screaming. The containment field is collapsing, Kelthor reported, his voice filled with disbelief. All stations are going offline. I don't understand, they shouldn't be able to reach them, let alone disable them. Director Vokthar's expression was grim. How long until we can restore the field? Unknown. The stations are locked out of their own systems. It's like someone changed all the passwords. On Earth, the Space Committee watched their screens as the barrier dissolved. Sarah Chen was already in Pioneer, systems online, FTL drive charged. This is Pioneer to Earth Control, she transmitted. The road is clear. Requesting permission to prove that humanity doesn't need permission. Permission granted, Captain. Show them what we're made of. Sarah smiled and engaged the FTL drive. This time, nothing stopped her. Pioneer jumped, crossing 4 light-years in an instant, emerging in the Alpha Centauri system. She transmitted 3 words back to Earth, we are free. And across the galaxy, the species that had imprisoned humanity suddenly realized they hadn't locked up a primitive civilization waiting to be civilized. They'd locked up a species that didn't accept barriers, didn't respect cages, and absolutely refused to wait for permission to reach for the stars. The galaxy learns respect. The emergency session. The news reached the Galactic Directorate within hours. Humanity had broken containment. Impossible, yet undeniably true. Director Vokthar convened an emergency session, his ancient confidence shaken for the first time in millennia. Explain, he demanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. Explain how a species barely 3,000 years old defeated technology we've refined over millions of years. Kelthor displayed the analysis, his form dimmer than usual. They didn't defeat the technology. They subverted it. The barrier stations operated on encrypted protocols that should have been unbreakable. Humanity didn't break the encryption. They convinced the stations they were authorized maintenance personnel. Social engineering, Shavera added quietly. A concept we'd forgotten. We built our security assuming attackers would use force or advanced hacking. Humans used deception. They exploited our own maintenance protocols against us. Counselor Thresh slammed his appendage on his platform. This proves my point. Humans are dangerous. They're deceptive, unpredictable. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. Destroyed them? Shavera's voice was sharp. For the crime of wanting freedom? For refusing to accept imprisonment without trial? For threatening galactic order? Thresh shot back. What order? A new voice asked. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Krelon of the Scythian Union had spoken. Her species was old, nearly as ancient as the Directorate itself, but they'd always remained neutral in council politics. She continued, her voice calm but carrying weight. We call it order, but what we've created is stagnation. We judge species ready for contact based on how closely they match our development pattern. We imprison those who advance differently. We've spent 12 million years creating a galaxy in our image, and we call it peace. Stability requires structure, Vokthar argued. Stability requires flexibility, Krelon countered. Humanity just demonstrated something we've forgotten, that limitation breeds innovation. We gave them a barrier designed to be impenetrable. They found a way through it in 1 year. How long did it take us to develop that barrier technology? 4 million years? 5? The chamber stirred uncomfortably. First contact, human style. While the Directorate debated, humanity was already moving. Within weeks of Sarah's successful jump, 12 more ships followed. Not warships, colony ships, research vessels, even a few commercial traders looking for new markets. They didn't ask permission. They simply went. The first official encounter happened at Kepler Station, a neutral trading hub on the galactic frontier. A human merchant ship, the Prosperity, arrived without warning, docked, and its captain walked into the station's main trading floor. Captain Marcus Webb was a former Navy officer turned entrepreneur. He'd loaded Prosperity with Earth goods, technology, art, food, and most importantly, information about human capabilities. The station's occupants, members of a dozen different species, stared at the human with a mixture of curiosity and alarm. Humans were supposed to be contained, monitored, controlled. Yet here one stood, confident and unbothered. Webb approached the station master, a Carthelian merchant named Vex who'd been trading for 3,000 years. "I'm here to establish trade relations," Webb said in accented but functional galactic standard. "I have samples of human goods and a catalog of what we can offer." Vex's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "You're human. You're not supposed to be here." "And yet, here I am," Webb replied with a smile. "The question is, are you interested in trading, or should I try the next station?" Vex studied the human for a long moment. Then, surprising even himself, he gestured to an empty merchant stall. "Show me what you have." What followed changed galactic trade forever. Webb displayed human technology, compact power generators, efficient recycling systems, adaptive AI, and something the galaxy hadn't seen in millions of years, fashion. "Fashion?" Vex asked, confused. "Artistic expression through functional items," Webb explained. "We don't just build tools. We make them beautiful. Different, unique, personal." He showed clothing that adapted to different environments, jewelry that incorporated functional technology, art that responded to viewer emotions. Things that had no practical value by galactic standards but enormous cultural value by human standards. Within hours, merchants from a dozen species were bargaining for human goods. Not because they needed them, but because they wanted them. Because after millions of years of efficient, practical, identical galactic culture, humanity offered something the galaxy had forgotten: individual expression. The Directorate's dilemma. News of human trade spreading through frontier stations reached the Directorate like a flood. Within a month, human ships had visited 47 systems. They weren't conquering or colonizing. They were simply being human, trading, talking, making friends, and occasionally annoying established powers with their refusal to follow protocols. Director Vokthar faced an impossible situation. He could order humanity destroyed, but that would require admitting the Directorate had imprisoned a species without cause. It would shatter the moral authority the Directorate had maintained for millions of years. He could send military forces to re-establish containment, but Counselor Thresh's war game simulations showed disturbing results. Humanity had reverse-engineered captured barrier technology. Their ships were now FTL-capable, and worse, they were creative. Every simulation showed human forces using tactics the galactic military had never encountered. Or he could do nothing and watch as humanity rewrote the rules of galactic civilization through sheer audacity. Kelthor provided the final piece of disturbing news. "Director, we've intercepted human communications. They're not trying to hide their plans. They're broadcasting them openly." He displayed a transmission from Earth's United Government. It was addressed to any species that wanted to listen. "Humanity extends an offer of friendship to all peaceful species. We seek trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation. We ask only that you respect our sovereignty as we respect yours. For those who tried to imprison us, we hold no grudge. We understand fear of the unknown. But understand this, we will not be caged again. Not by you, not by anyone." The message ended with coordinates for Earth and an open invitation to visit. "They're inviting the entire galaxy to their home world," Shavera said, wonder in her voice. "After everything we did to them, they're offering friendship." "Or," Thresh growled, "they're showing strength. Broadcasting their location, daring anyone to try containing them again. Maybe it's both, Krelon suggested. Humans seem to understand something we've forgotten, that strength and openness aren't opposites. They're confident enough to be vulnerable. The turning point. The moment that changed everything came 3 months later. A human exploration vessel, Discovery, encountered a Scythian colony ship in distress. The ship's life support had failed. 3,000 Scythians were dying, their distress signal unanswered because no other vessel was close enough to help in time. Discovery was close enough. Captain Jennifer Martinez didn't hesitate. All hands, emergency stations. Engineering, I need everything you can give me. We're going in. Her crew worked frantically, pushing their ship beyond safe limits. They reached the Scythian vessel with hours to spare, docked, and evacuated all 3,000 survivors. The rescue was broadcast across the galaxy. Images of human crew members carrying Scythian children, sharing their own limited supplies, working around the clock to repair the damaged ship, it was impossible to ignore. Ambassador Krelon brought the footage to the Directorate. This is what we were afraid of? A species that risks their own lives to save strangers? Director Vokthar watched the footage in silence. Finally, he spoke. Call a full assembly. All member species. It's time we corrected our mistake. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Directorate did something unprecedented. They issued a formal apology. The transmission reached Earth during prime time. Director Vokthar's image appeared on every screen. People of Earth, the Galactic Directorate acknowledges wrongdoing. We judged you without trial, imprisoned you without cause, and failed to recognize that different does not mean dangerous. We invite humanity to join galactic civilization as full members, with all rights and privileges. The offer was genuine, accompanied by access to galactic databases, trade networks, and diplomatic channels. On Earth, the response was debated for exactly 1 day before the United Government sent their reply: we accept your apology and your invitation. But let's be clear, we're not joining because you gave us permission. We're joining because it's the right thing to do. The galaxy is big enough for all of us. The new era. 5 years after breaking containment, humanity had established colonies on 17 worlds, trade relations with 93 species, and a reputation as the galaxy's most unpredictable ally. They brought chaos to galactic order, human music playing in alien bars, human food served in every major station, human fashion spreading through cultures that had worn the same style for millions of years. But they also brought something more important: hope. Hope that the galaxy could change, that old patterns could be broken, that innovation hadn't died. Kelthor, who'd spent millennia believing the Directorate's way was the only way, found himself assigned as first ambassador to Earth. On his first day, Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, met him at the spaceport. "Welcome to Earth," she said, extending her hand in the human greeting. "I hope you're ready. We don't do things the way you're used to." Kelthor took her hand carefully. "I've learned that's precisely what makes you valuable." As they walked through the bustling spaceport, humans and aliens mixing freely, chaos and order somehow coexisting, Sarah smiled. "You tried to lock us away because we scared you. Want to know something funny? What? We scared ourselves too. Still do sometimes. But we learned that being scared just means you're doing something worth doing." And in that moment, Kelthor understood what humanity had taught the galaxy, that greatness came not from following the ancient paths, but from having the courage to forge new ones.